to our channel, Help Build an Ark, Acts of Random Kindness. I'm Victor.
I'm Busy.
And today we're just going to be reviewing the 25 chapters that we read so far. Starting in Genesis 1, this is when God creates the heaven and the earth. How many days did it take God to build the heavens and the earth, or create them?
6.
And what did he do on the seventh day?
Rested.
Okay, so on day 1, God created day and night, and he separated them. And on day 2, he created the firmament, and he called the firmament heaven. On day 3, he created dry land, and he called it earth. And he made the grass, the trees, the plants, and all that. On day 4, he created the sun, moon, and stars, which, he put the sun in daytime, and he put the moon and stars at night. On day 5, he created all the creatures, birds, and all the animals that roam the earth. On day 6, he created man in God's image. And like we said, on the 7th day, he rested. So now we're going to talk about Genesis 2. This is when God creates Adam and Eve. First, he created Adam. Busy. What did he create Adam out of?
Dust.
Dust of the ground, or dirt. And then after Adam was created, he breathed into him the breath of life into his nostrils, and he tended the garden. Garden of Eden is where he was placed. And one day, God placed deep sleep on Adam, and he made Eve. But how did he make Eve?
With Adam's rib.
In the garden, there were 4 rivers: the Pison, the Gihon, the Euphrates, and the Hiddekel. Like we said, Adam was made from dust, and Eve was made from Adam's rib, and called woman because he was made, or she was made from man. And they were made to just tend to the garden and care for the animals. And now we're going to talk about Genesis 3. This is talking about the fall of man. Okay. So God told Adam and Eve that they can have whatever fruit they want. But there was one fruit that God told them that they can't have. What was that?
The tree of knowledge.
And for however long they followed that rule, but then one day Eve was probably just out in the garden, and she started talking to something. What did she start talking to?
The snake.
The snake. And the snake tricked her. He told her all these crazy things that just weren't true. But one of them was particularly absurd. What did the snake tell Eve about God?
That God's hiding something from her.
So, Adam and Eve ended up eating of the fruit, and once they did it, they were probably like, "Oh, we shouldn't have did that." And then they heard God's footsteps in the garden, and they tried to hide from God, but you can't hide from God. And God was talking to Adam, and he was like, "Why'd you eat of the fruit?" And Adam was like, "It was the one." Bless you. Adam,
What did you say?
Busy, it's okay.
Quit coughing. I think you're doing it on purpose.
No, I'm not.
Okay. And Adam was like, "It was the woman you gave to me. She told me to eat of it, and I ate." And then God questioned Eve, and she told him that the serpent tricked her. And then God talked to the serpent. So then God went to speak to the serpent, and he cursed him, and he told him that he was cursed above all cattle, and that he would crawl on his belly for the rest of his days. And he cursed Adam and Eve as well. He cursed Adam, saying that you will have to get your food and provide for your family by the sweat of your brow, and that you'd have to work for all your food and everything that you would get. And for Eve, God said that when you have children, it will be painful. And now we're going to talk about Genesis 4. This is after Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden, and they had 2 kids. What were their kids' name?
Cain
Mhm.
and Abram.
Abel.
Abel.
Okay, just say it.
Cain and Abel.
And one day, Adam and Eve told Cain and Abel that they need to give an offering to God. And Cain didn't take it very seriously. He was like, oh, this is just a waste of our time and our product. So Cain just gave some dry fruit that he was going to just throw away anyway. But Abel sacrificed his firstborn lamb, and God accepted Abel's offering but denied Cain's offering. And Cain got jealous, and he murdered Abel. But then God found out, well, he didn't find out, he knew, and he told Cain that he would just roam the earth forever, and he ended up having a whole bunch of kids and all that. But anyway, Adam and Eve had a third son whose name was Seth, which was like sort of like a replacement for Abel. So one of Cain's sons were named Enoch, and Enoch's great-great-great-grandson was Lamech, and Lamech was the first person to have two wives, or the first man to have two wives at once. And now we're going to talk about Genesis 5. This chapter talks about the descendants of Adam. And it's a whole lot of begats. It's just like this person had this person. And it goes all the way down to Noah, who we'll find out later was a part of the flood. But anyway, Noah had 3 sons. What were his sons' names?
Ham, Shem, and Japheth.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about Genesis 6, 7, and 8, which these 3 chapters talk about the flood. The earth was just full of wickedness, and God planned to destroy it. But he found one family, Noah's family, that he said he would save. At the time, there were like giants on the earth, and it was just all violent and sinful and crazy. And God told Noah all about what he was going to do, how he was going to flood the earth, and he told him to build something. What did God tell Noah to build?
A boat.
An ark. And he built the ark, and ark was huge. He had to fit 2 of every animal into the ark, which was just, like, when you think about it, that's like, wow, that's a lot of animals. And he tried to tell people, he was like, there's going to be a flood, y'all should listen to me, get on the boat, so y'all be, like, saved. But they didn't listen, they didn't believe him, because they were like, rain, what's that? Because there had never been rain on the earth before the flood. But anyway, the flood happened, obviously, and Noah and his family and all the animals were the only people and animals on the boat, and everybody else was wiped off the face of the earth. And the flood lasted 150 days. The water came from the rain and the oceans and underground rivers. So finally, after the rain stopped, the ark stopped on Mount Ararat, and Noah wanted to see if the waters had subsided. So he sent out a raven and a dove. Bible doesn't tell you what happened to the raven, but the dove, he sent it out, and the dove couldn't find anywhere to land, so it came back to the ark. That was the first time that Noah sent out the dove. The second time it came back with an olive branch. So Noah knew that the water was going down a little bit, the head went down a little bit, but the third time the dove didn't come back at all. So Noah knew after that it was okay to go down, and they went down, and Noah talked to God, and God told Noah and his family to be fruitful and multiply, and he told the animals to be fruitful and multiply and just repopulate the earth. Now we're going to talk about Genesis 9. This is where God creates a covenant with Noah. God promises Noah that he will never flood the earth again. But he left a symbol for us to just always remember that promise. Busy, what is that symbol that God shows us so we can remember?
A rainbow.
God puts rainbow in the sky to remind us that he will never flood the earth, the whole entire earth again. And this chapter also talks about how Ham saw Noah naked because Noah was drunk. And instead of covering him up like he should have, he saw his nakedness, and then he went and told his brothers, and he made fun of him, which was just terrible. And his brothers, Shem and Japheth, they actually walked backwards and covered Noah, and they didn't see his nakedness. But when Noah woke up, somehow he knew what Ham did, how he made fun of him and all that, so he cursed him and said that he would serve Shem and Japheth. And also, Noah died when he was 950 years old. Genesis 10. This chapter talks about the descendants of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So how many sons did Japheth have?
7.
How many sons did Ham have?
4.
And how many sons did Shem have?
5.
Ham's grandson, Nimrod, was a mighty hunter in the kingdom of Babel and in the land of Shinar. And they had many descendants, and they're still growing because we're all here. Genesis 11. This talks about the Tower of Babel. Now, at the time, there was only how many languages?
1.
But then the people of Shinar tried to build a tower leading all the way up to heaven, which is impossible. So God made a bunch of languages so they couldn't speak to each other, and it just messed all that up.
Hey, Victor.
Yeah?
Why was Abraham so smart?
I don't know why.
Because he knew a lot.
And now we're going to talk about Genesis chapter 12, which is the call of Abram. God told Abraham when he was 75 years old to leave his home and go wherever he told him to go. But the thing is, Abraham didn't know where he was going. He was just following wherever God said to go. The first place he stopped at was Canaan, but there was a famine there, so he left and he went to Egypt. And when he went to Egypt, he lied, and he said that Sarai, his wife, was his sister. And the Pharaoh of Egypt saw that Sarai was good to look upon and took her as a wife. But obviously that wasn't a good thing because she was already married. And for this, God plagued Pharaoh's house with great plagues. And the Pharaoh kicked them out, kicked Abraham and Sarai out. And now we're going to talk about Genesis 13. Abram and Lot part from each other. So Abram and Lot are together, but they part for some reason. They separate. Why?
It's because they both had too much stuff.
They had so much cattle and just men and servants and all that, so they couldn't. They
couldn't live in the same.
They were having altercations, so they ended up splitting. Where did Lot go?
To Sodom.
So now Genesis 14. What does this chapter mostly talk about?
War.
And this chapter talks about how there were nations at war. It was just a big war. This is where Abram smote the enemy, and this person tries to bless him. What was this person's name?
Melchizedek.
And Melchizedek tries to bless Abram with bread and wine. Abram refused his offer so that they could not claim that he'd make him rich. But Abram did tell him to feed the 318 men that the 318 men that he had with him. Genesis 16, this talks about Hagar and Ishmael. So Sarai, Abram's wife, could not have kids. She was barren. So she told Abram to have a kid with the maidservant, whose name was Hagar. And they ended up having a kid. So what was that kid's name?
Ishmael.
So when Hagar became pregnant, she started to despise Sarai, making fun of her, saying, like, ha, I can get pregnant, you can't. And for this, Sarai started treating her really badly. And Hagar ended up fleeing to a desert. But an angel went to her and found her
in the desert.
An angel found her in the desert by a well and told her to go back. Abram was 86 when Ishmael was born. This chapter, Genesis 19, talks about the covenant of circumcision. How old was Abram when he got circumcised?
99.
And how old was Ishmael when he got circumcised?
13.
And when this happened, God changed Abram's name. Changed his name to Abraham, which I've been getting confused this whole time. Anyway, and he changed Sarai's name to Sarah. So both of them got their names changed. New babies were born. How old did they have to be to get circumcised?
8 days old.
And what happened if they didn't get circumcised?
They would lose.
They'd be cut off from their family.
They would be cut off from their family.
And now, Genesis 18, this is when the 3 visitors visit Abraham. One of the visitors are God, and the 2 others are angels. God tells Abraham that he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, but Abraham knows that Lot is in Sodom, so he starts at 50 people. He tells God, if I can find 50 people that are righteous, will you not destroy Sodom? And God agreed to it, and he went down 45, 30, 35, 20, and he finally got down to 10, and God said, if I find 10 righteous people, I will not destroy Sodom. But he didn't find 10 righteous people, and he ended up destroying Sodom. And also, God told Sarah that she was going to get pregnant, but she didn't believe God because she was old. She was like, there's no way I can get pregnant. We'll find out later that obviously she was wrong. Genesis 19, this is the chapter that talks about Sodom and Gomorrah getting destroyed. So, 2 angels show up to Lot's house, but they're disguised as normal people. Lot doesn't know, Lot and his family don't know, or nobody knows, that they're angels. Lot invites them in, they eat food, and then the people of Sodom surrounded Lot's house because they wanted to do wicked things. And Lot did all he could to keep them out, but it was a big old crowd, and they ended up trying to bust through the door. But the angels did something to stop that. What did they do?
watered them with kindness.
Yeah. And then.
I mean, sparked them with kindness.
And then, they left Sodom, and the angels kept reminding them, don't look back, because God was going to destroy Sodom. And the angels told Lot and his family to go up on a mountain, but Lot was like, I'm too old, I can't climb up that mountain. Can we go to this little city? Little city called?
Zoar.
And again, the angels kept reminding him, don't look back. But Lot's wife decided to be disobedient, and she looked back, and something happened to her. What happened to her?
She turned into salt.
So Genesis chapter 20. So after this is after Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. Abraham went to the city, and he lied again. He tried to pull the same old tricks, and he tried to say Sarah was something that was just not true. What did Abraham try to say about Sarah?
Sarah is my sister.
And so naturally, the king saw that there was a beautiful woman, and that she wasn't married. So he took her as his wife. But one night when he was sleeping, God came to him in a dream, and he told him that he was a dead man and that she was already married. But he was so confused. He was like, but God, I tried to do the right thing. Abraham told me that she was his sister. And God was like, yes, I know, that's why I made it to where you wouldn't want to touch her. But then God said, if you give her back, you shall be blessed, but if you don't, you shall die. So Busy, what do you think he chose?
To give Sarah back.
So when he gave Sarah back, the king's name was Abimelech. When he gave Sarah back, he questioned Abraham. He was like, why did you tell me that Sarah was your sister? And Abraham said, well, I thought y'all were ungodly, wicked people, and I thought that y'all would kill me and kidnap Sarah. But that was just untrue. So Abimelech, the king, he decided to do a good thing, and he forgave Abraham for lying, and he gave him a place in his kingdom, and he gave him silver and cattle, and just gave him everything he needed. Okay. So Genesis 21, this chapter talks about when Isaac was born. So Abraham was like 100 years old, and Sarah was like 90, so they didn't think that they could have kids, but God told Sarah that she was going to have a kid. Remember back when she laughed and she didn't believe him? Well, she's having a kid, and they named him Isaac, and Ishmael, which is Abraham's other son from Hagar, was a little bit older, and he was making fun of Isaac, like, because you know how kids do. He was probably like, ha, I'm older than you, I'm bigger than you, whatever. And Sarah didn't like it. So Sarah told Abraham that to kick out Ishmael and Hagar. But Abraham didn't want to. He was like, no, that's my kid, I don't really want to. But Sarah finally ended up getting through to him, I guess. And they kicked out Hagar and Ishmael, and they went to a desert again. And they ran out of supplies like water and stuff, all the essentials to survive, and they almost died. But an angel was sent by God to help them. What did the angel do?
Showed them where water was.
So, Genesis 22. Now, personally, in my opinion, I like this chapter a lot because God tested Abraham. And how did God test Abraham?
See how good he listens and how bad he doesn't.
God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, which was his only son that was born from his wife, not Hagar. But Abraham listened. He doesn't put anything before God. God told Abraham where to go and where to build the altar and kill Isaac. So Abraham got his donkeys and all his cattle and all of his men, and they journeyed to where God told him to. It took them 3 days to get there. And when they finally got there, Abraham told all of his men to stay down here, and he just took Isaac with him. And Isaac was carrying the wood, and Abraham was carrying the knife and the fire. And when they were walking up, Isaac got curious, and he asked them, "Where's the lamb?" Because he noticed that they had all the stuff for a sacrifice, but he was like, "Where's the lamb?" What did Abraham say?
Said that God will give it to us.
Mm-hmm. So they got up to the top. Abraham built the altar, and then he put Isaac on the altar, and he was just about to kill him. But right before he did it, what happened?
An angel came and told him to stop.
Mm-hmm. He told him to stop, like right before he almost killed Isaac. And God said, okay, you fear me and you won't put anything before me. You'll be blessed. And he blessed them. So, Genesis 23, this chapter talks about when Sarah died. When was Sarah when she died?
127.
Mm-hmm. When Sarah died, Abraham needed a place to bury her, but he didn't want a place that somebody can just like take away whenever in the future. So he talked to the children of Heth, and he asked them, he told them, I need land, I need somewhere to bury my wife, and they told him that wherever he wanted to, he wouldn't be denied, and he wanted the land of a man named Ephron, and Ephron tried to give it to him for free, but Abraham said, no, I want to pay for it. How much did Abraham pay for the land?
400 shekels.
Mm-hmm. And he bought the land, and he buried Sarah where?
In the cave.
He buried Sarah in a cave, yeah. Okay, so Genesis 24. This talks about, so Abraham was really old. He was probably just about to die, but he wanted Isaac to have a wife. So he found his most eldest servant, and he told him to go and find Isaac a wife, but he told him not to get Isaac's wife from the people that are wicked. He told him to go where his hometown is and try to get a wife for Isaac there. But the servant was like, well, what if I don't, or what if when I find a woman she doesn't want to come back? Abraham said, well, if that happens, you don't have to follow that promise, because they made the servant swore and promised Abraham, and Abraham said, well, if she doesn't want to come back, you're good. So he went to where Abraham wanted him to go, and he was giving water to his camels. He brought 10 camels. He was giving water to his camels, and he prayed to God. He said, let the woman you would want me to find for Isaac offer me water and offer the camels water. And this woman came up and did exactly what he had prayed for. What was her name?
Becca.
Mm-hmm. And when he met Rebecca, he knew that was going to be Isaac's. So the servant went to Rebecca's house and stayed the night. They had a meal, and in the morning they had to go. But Rebecca's parents tried to see if they could stay for at least 10 extra days. But the servant said, no, we have to go now, and Rebecca left with him. And when they got back to where Isaac and Abraham were, Rebecca was covering herself, and Isaac and Rebecca got married, and Isaac was a little bit comforted. For Genesis 25, the final chapter that we're talking about today, this is where Abraham gets a new wife. Now, biblically, when you have a wife and your wife, or your husband or wife, your spouse, pass away, biblically, you're allowed to get a new wife. And So Abraham got a new wife. What's his new wife's name?
Keturah.
Mhm. And Abraham and Keturah had 9 kids, and then later something happened to Abraham. What happened?
He died.
Mhm. And when Abraham died, Isaac inherited all that Abraham had, and when Isaac was 40, that's when he got Rebecca pregnant. Isaac was 40 when he got Rebecca pregnant. How many kids did Rebecca have when she got pregnant the first time?
2.
Mm-hmm. She had twins. The firstborn was named Esau. The secondborn was named Jacob. But Jacob did something really intriguing. What did Jacob do?
Grab his heel.
Yep, he grabbed Esau's heel. And later, when they had become grown up, Jacob was a cook, and Esau was a worker. And Esau came and asked Jacob if he could have something to eat. And Jacob was like, "You'll have to sell me your birthright." And probably just being exhausted and not really thinking straight, Esau agreed to it and he got his food. And that is the end.
And for the praises, thanks, and blessings box.
This one's from Brandy. Wants to thank God for looking out for her husband's safety and what could have ended in tragedy. This next one is from Katelyn. Her son is healthy and gives thanks to God. This next one's from Kay. Thanks God for keeping her calm and strong.
Now time for the prayer jar.
This one's for Nancy. Praises God for all the good in her life. This one's for Jamie. Continued prayers as she tries to beat cancer. This one's for Barbara. Healing from skin rashes and find a place to live and comfort through her divorce. This one's for Tanya. Prayers for inner peace. This one's for Renee. Prayers for family and housing. This one's for Kay. Prayers for surgery and possible chemo. For Melissa, praise for inner peace. This one's for Lori, and she has unspoken prayers. This one's for Becky. Praise for peace of mind. This one's for this one's for Lilly. Prayers for quick sale of her home and for disability approval. This one's for Moma Teg. Continued prayers for her marriage and daughter's healing. And this final one is for Gayle. Prayers for her husband to get well. And now it is time to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for waking us up another day and blessing us with the gift of life. I have some praises from Brandy, Katelyn, and Kay. Thank you for blessing their lives. I pray that you would bless everybody's life if it be your will. I also have some prayer requests from Nancy, Jamie, Barbara, Tanya, Renee, Kay, Melissa, Lori, Becky, Lilly, Moma Teg, and Gayle. You know their needs, Lord, and I pray that you would help them in whatever they need help with. And I pray that if any of these people don't know you as their Lord and Savior, they'd get that settled before it is eternally too late. And I pray that you send forth favors into your heart. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So if you enjoyed the video and you'd like to support us, you can do that by leaving a like. And also if you'd like to continue following us as we read through the Bible, subscribe, and then there's a little bell right next to it that you can click if you'd like to be notified every time we upload. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I pray that you have a blessed day. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.